then we try to use design as a tool to make products that enable people to compost easier, compost faster, and we try to make it fun and very contextual. When especially it comes to India, and changing mindsets here is so difficult. And the point where we come from is waste pickups in a complicated, overpopulated state like India, for example, are such complex supply chains that most of the public money or the taxpayers' money that is paid for those services actually ends up just being used for carting waste from one place to another without it being transformed or used for anything useful. And also our landfills are dying down. And say a city like Bangalore, which is a mega city, and it's most of the landfills are overflowing or filled. So we come from a point of decentralization and making people realize that composting as a tool is so powerful when a large group of people start doing it, that more than 60% of your waste could actually be handled right at home and would save so much cost and trouble, or you can say environmental degradation on the system in the larger scale. So yeah, so all those people who are feeling composting is difficult to do, happy to answer questions later.
Yeah, we're going to take you up on that, Amarpreet, and ask you a lot more about it, because yes, composting can feel a little intimidating for most people. Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's deep dive with all our three panelists. So Matteo, we want to start with the upcycling part. Want to ask you about what is the impact you feel of upcycled products, and how does it sort of positively impact the whole sustainability space?
Yeah, thank you so much for this beautiful question. We have to consider that we have different R in sustainability. It can be recycling, reuse, reject, repurpose. Upcycling is a very good solution of using something that is destined to be destroyed and turning it into something to value. So this helps as well the circular economy of the product, or create or generate added value for something, as I said, that has no value. The good things is we can use our creativity. I love to work with university and school and try to find new way or new system to upcycle product or material that it's completely out of our mind to think that we can create something. We can think old clothes into a face mask, for example, or as I said, the billboard into a bag that you can, backpack, sorry. A couch that can be another furniture, so in another completely different way, or part of a gardening system. So I think what gives me the passion on upcycling more than recycling is the creativity that is behind, and the opportunity to help imagination in creating value for the economy and for the people as well.
Okay, so that's really interesting. You talk a little bit about creativity and how you can really upcycle a lot of different things, right? But in practicality, what are the simple, easy shifts that you think people can do to start upcycling, their day-to-day items? If there are any few things that come to the top of your mind?
Yeah, it's in the day-to-day basis, we can think about, for example, clothes that we don't use anymore. A way of upcycling can be donated to somebody else, or create something out of it, or a t-shirt that you don't like, change the color, paint on it. Any way that give this new product a new life in a new destination. So whatever it's surrounding us in the house can be upcycled in certain way, and be given a new life and a new cycle. Yes.
Yeah. And I think for me, what's really interesting is the new sneaker brand that you all are launching, Thaely. It sounds really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? What was the vision? How did you all come up with it?
Yeah, I would like to say that it's my idea, but unfortunately it is not. I'm just the wallet behind this idea. And also Eric is part of this adventure as well, because this is what I love of sustainability in the UAE as well. It seems that it's a big country, but we know very well each other. So coming back to Thaely is an idea that was born from the genius mind of Ashai Bahev. At that time, he was a 19 years old student in Amity University. I was one of the judges in the startup competition called Eureka. And I fall in love with his idea. His first prototype was the most ugliest pair of shoes in the history of the shoes. But I saw something behind. I saw the mission. I saw the vision. And I like this very young and determined guy. He won this competition, not just because of my vote, of course, but because of the one of a very good jury. And I shake his hand the same day. We still have the picture. And I said, I wanna build a company with you. I wanna build a project with you. And now 1 year later, we reached an evaluation of $1 million. We are ready to launch the shoes. We got very good investor. We get very good partners, and people cannot really wait to start this adventure. And having a pair of shoes that it's unique in the world. Nobody creates something like this, made from plastic bags, plastic bottles. Sustainable also the way how it's created. So involved, of course, there is the right payment for the people that work. The whole production is built to be sustainable, not only the product. So it's having a social impact and an environmental impact.
Absolutely. So it sounds really interesting. Like plastic bags getting turned into a sneaker is quite a unique concept. So if I had to turn that into quantifiable impact, what impact would you see these sneakers having on the environment?
Yeah, first of all, we recruit people that are homeless in India to collect these plastic bags and plastic bottles. This has the first impact in the society level. After that, of course, we take away from the nature this plastic that is destined to be polluting the country itself. So we can calculate 22 plastic bags and 16 bottles for one pair. So the math is easily done. We collaborate with waste management company to collect as much bags as possible. So we try to give back to the community as well. The whole footprint impact is it's limited to India because there is a lot of companies, a lot of brands in the world that aim to be sustainable, and they produce the lace in Australia, the sole in France, and the internal side in Russia. So they put all together. They're coming from different parts of the world, so the footprint impact itself it's very high. What we decide is, let's make everything in India, let's support the community in India, let's support the economy in India, and this is because, of course, the founder is Indian, and I think there is a very good margin, and the story it's very strong.
No, it sounds really interesting. So how has the response been to use the sneakers? Are you all live yet?
We're going to be live on December 1st. We already have many hundreds pre-order. We've been selected for many awards. We won 2 awards, one in Sharjah, one in Abu Dhabi. We've been on the newspaper in France, in Switzerland, Italy, of course, in the UAE. And the potential is very high because we want to be a brand that is honest with the consumer. We want to, of course, demonstrate that a very good pair of sneakers in terms of quality can be done out of the trash. And also the price wise, we decided to keep it very less than our competitor. We reduce our margin, but of course, we want to sell as much as possible to have a biggest impact.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And I think that comes back to the point of upcycled products more broadly. What do you think are the motivators and deterrents for people to use upcycled products?
I think generations are changing. I think the new young generation are going through more sustainable products. They want to feel part of a system that is changing direction from buying and using and throwing to something more meaningful. And the good part that generation are being more picky and selective. Before 2-3 years ago, if something was seen vegan or recycled, you were not really digging into it. You were believing what this company was doing. The problem now, there is a lot of greenwashing. It means company use sustainability to do maybe a 1% cover, like a facade, and show that they are sustainable, but behind the scene, it's very bad. So now luckily, young consumer, young generation are turning into be more selective, and they want the proof that a product or a service is really sustainable. So
Right.
I am a good believer on the new generation, and I think there is way to go. The market in upcycling and recycling product is growing very fast.
No, I totally agree with you on that. Thank you so much, Matteo. And since the whole recycling and upcycling thing is moving so fast, I think it's nice for Eric to answer some questions for us in the recycling space. So Eric, you worked in the packaging industry for really long, right? What made you move towards the recycling part of it?
Yeah, the industry I was working with was and actually still facing challenges about plastic. While it is the container that has the lowest quarter-to-quarter carbon footprint, pollution is highly visible, and consumers are getting concerned, and rightly concerned. But the issue, when you look at the issue, is not about the material itself, but it is how we dispose it of. And the root cause is the lack of perceived value. So with my partner, we had some innovative ideas to create value for the West and make a positive impact on that worldwide problem. And it's really a value issue. You know, I always say plastic, if a plastic bottle was made of gold, nobody will dump it, isn't it? So it's just how do we create a value behind that?
Yeah, yeah. So how has Zulu created value around that?
Well, we are using blockchain that powers our in-house developed reward engine, and then for every actions that we determine, whether in the Zeloop application, but tomorrow in some other application that want to reward a positive gesture or positive impact for the planet, we can plug those applications to our reward engine. So the reward engine emits our cryptocurrency, and that cryptocurrency can be exchanged, redeemed against goods and services, and ultimately against real money. And what is interesting is that we create an ecosystem of solutions, and all the actors, all the stakeholders of that ecosystem create the value and benefit from that value. And that is where you start really to get engagement, and people don't see, let's say, a used plastic bottle as just something that they can easily dump, throw out of the windows of their car, but somebody say, hey, here is 100 token, and I can do something with my token.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, and I really liked the statement you made. If a plastic bottle was gold, we would not be throwing it around, right? But I think that brings me back. We all know plastic is really bad for the environment, and we know, however, plastic in packaging is something that we haven't found an economical substitute for it, right? So plastic is used. So why do you think people what deters people from recycling?
Well, first, it's not. I mean, not everybody is enough educated about it. You know,
Yeah.
it's that is the first step. Huh? If you don't see the big picture, and people are often confronted to preconceived ideas, that actually becomes reality for most. Then what is for the consumer, for him, if he recycles, you know, is sometimes it's a perception also is, hey, you as a producer, you are the polluter. Even if I'm as a consumer, I'm part of that pollution. And if I don't do the right gesture, I'm actually also responsible for the pollution. But some people say, yeah, but you are it's always easier to finger point the other and say, so you are producer, you are the polluter, and you're trying to pass the burden of recycling on my shoulder because you are not able to treat it. So it's how to turn that into a satisfaction of doing a positive action. And well, if that is not enough for some consumer, this is why on Zeloop we want to play on other drivers, you know, competition with challenges, social recognition, with our gamification or in-app forum, or the reward, again, bringing value in the hands.
Right. And I think that model is really interesting, Eric, because I think a lot of people, a lot of consumers assume it's the responsibility of the government to have, recycling setups in place to enable the entire ecosystem, but the individual responsibility kind of gets lost. However, we find that there's some countries doing recycling better than others.
Yes.
Which country do you think, according to you, is someone who's doing recycling right, and why do you think so?
Well, you're right. First, that I mean, all the stakeholders, it's producer, regulators, municipalities, and consumer. We are all responsible for living a better planet for our future generation and so on. It's also right that if I'm a user, I can't recycle because there is no recycling bins, or if there is bins but behind the bins nothing is done properly, then obviously the whole system can't work. So we have to improve also the efficiency of the recycling channels and so on. Some countries are better. If you take the example of plastic bottles, just to be very specific, Northern Europe countries have a collection rate of 96% for some of them. They use deposit schemes that are more the stick approach compared to the carrot approach that we want to apply. That has also a cost, actually, because you have to maintain and the maintenance lies also on the fact that not all the money that is distributed for the deposit scheme is not collected, because some people will not bring it. And after, but sometimes it's not enough. If you look at Germany, 96% collection rate on plastic, but most of that plastic collected is burned for energy. And that is, we are not yet at the right stage of a true circular economy. The ideal situation would be that every product that we make becomes the next product. So if we produce one plastic bottle, that bottle becomes the next bottle without losing performance and so on. That is a true circular economy. So even countries that are perceived as good, there is still a lot of progress to be made.
Okay, interesting. So from an individual consumer perspective, Eric, what do you think one can do to start off this whole recycling journey? What are the small shifts people can make?
I think first is about education. Is that to start to adopt the right gesture, and it is very quick fix, low-hanging fruit that you can implement in your daily life without going back to the 18th century and losing the modern life that we all enjoy. But there are some small gesture that, and as an adult, we have to get that on board, so the whole family is influenced, then the kids start to get that in their daily life. It's normal for them not to throw away, but just to keep and so on. So doing the small step, small gesture, and make sure that everybody, every generation start to go adopt those gestures.
I thought you would say download the loop for this, Eric.
And that is also, and that, well, Zilloop will also to support on education. We will have a forum where we give tips and so on, because you may have also need ideas to do and so on. But you're right. But when you download the loop, because it's playful and that you have some rewards, kids love it. I see the change in my family since we created the loop. I see the change of habit. My wife now, she instead of just walking, she walks and comes back with a trash bin full of plastic bottles and so on. Kids say, hey, when I drink something, they say, I've got 100 tokens to be deposited and so on. So yeah, it's the influence. It's very powerful.
No, that's really nice. Thank you so much, Eric. Thanks. It's really interesting to hear about upcycling and recycling. And I think now we want to shift towards not a completely, but a different topic on composting. So over to you, Amarpreet. So Dairy Dump has been doing really amazing work in the composting space in India, right? Can you tell us about the positive impact composting has on this massive waste problem that India has?
Yeah. So like I was saying before, when we did an analysis on the kind of waste produced in a country like India, firstly, we're talking massive amounts. Say again, taking the city of Bangalore that I live in, we are speaking about 6,000 tons of waste being produced every day. And out of that, we figured that 60 to 70% on an average in every city is just wet waste. It's all organic waste, which is either wasted food or vegetable peels or leftover food and whatnot. uh, and that's when we thought, and when you realize that all of that is just nutrition, which came from the soil and some farmers grew somewhere, and it's got inherent nutrition that could go back into the country's soils. And then when you actually start reading on compost and on how wonderful a material it is, and not only for waste management, actually, as a climate change mitigator, for making sure the soils in the country, the agricultural land is well cultivated. It's got the essential nutrition. It's got the essential amounts of moisture. That material solves many problems. So when you just put the two together, it just makes so much sense to do it, the
Right.
composting part. But the challenge was obviously behavior change. If you are in a place where people are not even separating their waste and just putting all of it together, to actually tell them to know you have to separate it and you have to keep this much at home and put it in your balcony, keep it right there. That was the design challenge that we had. And we felt that only if we make composting inherently contextual, that we make it very Indian, we make it fun and easy, only then people will kind of stick to it. And not only stick to it, they'll also get a feeling of pride when they do it. And they'll talk to other people and say, you know what, this is awesome. I'm doing this at home. You should come see it. I have it in my balcony or I have it in my porch. And that kind of that is kind of why the reason we stuck around for so long as well. Uh, and in terms of impact, say for example, say one family does composting today and they're saving, say about, when I say family, say a 4-member family produces about 1 kilo of waste a day. So they
Mhm.
save up about 30 kilos from going into the landfills every month. And
Yeah.
that translates to close to half a ton for the year. And when you multiply that with, say, about more than 60,000 families are doing it in a city,
Yeah.
it's massive. We're talking like almost hundreds of tons of waste every month being saved from going out. And so the impact is not only in terms of the landfill save, you can also talk in terms of carbon dioxide emissions, of what the landfills might have caused when it would have actually landed up there. And also in terms of the transportation saved, and the haulage of waste and things like that. So we really feel that it has a massive impact. And when you live in an ecosystem like, say again, like India, where the cities are overcrowded, there is no space to manage waste centrally anymore. And decentralization is the word of the town, where people are trying to either make it, say, ward level, or to make it house level or community level.
Yeah.
uh, this, I feel, will just increase. It'll also reach tier 2 and tier 3 towns and or smaller places as well, and it really needs to, because I think it has a big impact from that perspective.
No, I think that's really interesting. But like moving away from India and looking at other regions as well,
Yeah.
consumer behavior, how have you seen consumer behavior shifting? Because composting is tedious, it takes dedication, it takes a certain amount of, regularity. So how have you seen consumer behavior shifting in this regard?
Oh, we've seen it shift a lot. And in our initial years, you would not believe it. So when we would do demos for, say, societies, or we would go do stuff for, say, corporate companies, we would actually have to explain that composting exists. That there is something called composting, and then you go on to say, okay, you can do it at home. But now we feel it's pretty well known. When we go do demonstrations, or do some programs with companies or organizations, we find that people already know what segregation of waste is. They already
Mhm.
know that composting as a solution exists. Now the questions are more profound as to how I can do it, which kind of solution works the best for me. And I think along with the consumers, the industry has also grown, because when it's nascent, when there's just one composting company around, it's still an experiment that's going on, and you've not still gotten it right. And composting as a at its essential form is very, it's like learning something new. It's like learning a musical instrument. For example, you make some mistakes in the first few days, but then it just becomes a part of your life. It becomes just on an autopilot sort of a thing. So we've seen even the companies and the technology itself grow to a much better place now, where right now if somebody wants to start composting, you can actually do it very conveniently
Mhm.
without any smell, taking up only about 2 to 3 minutes of your time on a daily basis. So I wouldn't still call it tedious. Only when you're removing the compost, say whatever kind of composter you have at home, only when you're removing it, say you spend a Sunday morning an hour to take out the compost, put it in your plants. That itself, some people actually really like. And people get interested in other things. Then once they have compost, they want to do gardening. They want to grow their own food. So there are various ways in which we can take this also and make it like a holistic, grow your own food and eat healthy plus compost sort of a thing, rather than just say compost.
Right.
So I feel both in the industry as well as the users have grown. And one last thing, yes, even in other countries, because we also do composting work, say for example in the US, we
Mhm.
find that over there also there's been a positive response. And it's true, like Matteo also mentioned, the younger generations now are saying, can we consume better? And they're
Right.
trying to find answers, be it through say upcycling, reusing, be it through better retail practices and on repackaging things, and so on and so forth. So we, even in India as well as other places, we've seen similar shifts.
Mhm.
uh, but contextually, some things are different, where the kind of solutions that people want to adopt, the kind of space they have,
Right.
and the kind of engagement that they have, and so those things are different. So you kind of try to design products according to that.
Right. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Amarpreet. But on a scale of 1 to 5, if I had to ask you how difficult it is to compost, 1 being really easy, 5 being really difficult, what would you say? What would
I
you
would
rate?
I would say 3. I'd go the neutral way, and I think most people expected that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say 3. It's not really a difficult thing. So composting, I mean, if just to speak on it a little more, it's basically something that happens in nature. It's and when we again say, coming back to again the Indian context. 100 years ago, or before this whole plastic revolution happened and packaging became a thing, people would essentially recycle and compost things. Even today, if you go to smaller towns and say villages, what people do is they have wasted food, they have a lot of other stuff, biomass, they have leaves. They just dig a pit and they put it all inside, and that's essentially composting. If you throw a banana peel on the soil, it's going to compost. We are going to compost, like if we were to, like anything organic or anything that lives once finally decomposes.
Right.
Only when it comes to the urban scale, which is the problem we are trying to solve,
Mhm.
uh, is when it becomes tricky, and hence it becomes 3, because then you only have a limited solution,
Okay.
or a limited space, sorry, to do it. Say if you live in a 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom apartment and you have only 2 balconies, you wouldn't
Mhm.
want lots of worms and soil and things spilled all over your balcony. So that's what people usually come to us and say. But now it's come to a stage where literally you can put a composter, you are given the powders with it that you need to add to it for composting it. There is always a manual, there's a video, and if you just stick to the book, I'd
Yeah.
say it's around a 3 out of
Yeah.
5 to do that.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And actually, we have some of the attendees also writing in about composting, and I think it's very valid, like especially here in the UAE, right? People want to compost. However, a lot of us live in apartments, right? And in these apartments, we literally have no waste segregation. We have a chute where we throw everything down. So from a perspective of making it accessible for people living in apartments, how do you think one can start composting? How can you scale up composting more broadly?
Um, Again, it boils down to having the right product.
Yeah.
Because just like any other industry, you'll find lots of composters. If you go to Amazon and search for composters, you'll find lots of different kinds. You'll find rotating drums. You'll find some machinery where you put it and it churns it into small pieces. You'll find absolutely natural composters, which and you'll find people claiming that you get compost in 24 hours, which is just impossible. You
Mhm.
can't speed up nature to kind of make something so fast.
Right.
Uh, So you have to be careful on what product you are trying to promote. It has to be very space intensive, because having been to Dubai myself several times, I know the kind of spaces we are talking of. So it
Yeah.
needs to be something that fits into a tighter space. It needs to be something which is, for example, in Daily Dump, we have these stackable sort of
Right.
composters where you just put it in one corner, you keep filling one, and then after say about 20 days, you shift it, and from the lower portion, it comes on the top.
Yeah.
Uh, having that right product, that then you set up a case study and you get say 10 people to do, and then you kind of, you know, tell their stories very well. You make sure there are case studies there for people to see, and people talk to each other. That is one way to grow and that's how we've done it actually. What we had very lesser number of users initially. It was all word of mouth. Then we
Right.
would do things like open houses, you know, at a community. We'll invite people and say, okay, come see how it is being done here and what are the impact, and decide for yourself, sort of a thing. And
Right.
seeing is believing. And another thing we did was we made the first of its kind experience center for waste, which is in Bangalore here, where people
Okay.
could just come and engage with different panels and different things to learn more about what recycling means, or what reusing means, or and how do you rethink your interactions with nature and your spaces. So I think a
Okay.
lot of those interventions need to be done to scale it up,
Perfect.
so that people know, basically.
So a lot of education around it, a lot of interaction.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Amarpreet. Now, I wanted to kind of open it up to all three panelists and wanted to ask broader questions. What do you think organizations can do to turn waste into value? Either of you all can answer. It's up to you.
Can I go first?
Sure.
Okay, so a second. Yeah, so basically what companies or organization can do is just looking around the resources that they have. If you think about a normal office, create tons of paper consumption during the year. So first of all, you can reduce the use of paper and avoid to print everything. Sorry, 1 second. So yes, reducing the consumption first, and try to give to companies that recycle paper or plastic bottles or any kind of material, cans in aluminum. Also, there are companies that buys IT product like computer, phones, dishwasher, washing machine. So rather to dump it somewhere in the desert, you can just give it or sell it. So we have to think, and I believe that this is what Eric is doing with the loop. It's giving a real value of material that can be really generate other value as well. So for corporation, I would say make an analysis, internal analysis, and reduce first, and try to evaluate and value what is produced and how it can be sold or can be reinjected in the economy.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I was on mute.
Yeah, you and me, that's what I was going to tell you.
Yeah. I think measuring what you produce is the very first step for improvement. As long as you don't have the conscience of what is at stake, obviously you don't do anything. Once you measure, then you can start to engage employees, engage partners, engage suppliers, and drive for better design, drive for better use, and you can put also obviously incentive in place so that people are even more motivated, you know, because we know that the drive that we are sensitive against sustainability and so on. So for us, the model that is good for the planet is enough to motivate us. But when you look at where we are, it's not enough. Otherwise, we will not have pollution problems and so on. So that good for the planet is not enough to engage people on the path. So we have to implement other drivers, and sometimes, yeah, what is motivates. And in a company, you can associate different driver. Whether is it a reward in one way, whether is it more free time or whatsoever. But it's just analyzing what you do and then analyzing what people would be happy to do, and against what motivation.
Sure, sure. No, that makes sense. I have a follow-up question on that, Eric. So you talked about measuring, and that's a really important part, right? How do companies start measuring their impact? Because I think that's the starting point, right? You first measure and then you see, okay, what can I cut down? So what all elements do you think companies should take into account when they measure?
First, they have to measure what they produce, I mean, as a waste, but also understand the alternative solution. Because sometimes one thing that switching from one material to the other would be the solution. But when you measure is anything, it should be a full impact. So a cradle to cradle analysis is sometimes a bit complex, but for some products, it's available. You know, you just have to Google it, and you will find all sorts of studies and so on. But yeah, not just stopping at the perceived impact, but really looking at the real impact.
Makes sense.
Yeah, just to add to that, Namrata, to your first question, what we also feel here is, I think inherently we also need a lot of transparency from organizations, transparency to their users, transparency to their employees on what the impacts of different things are for. And where I'm coming from is because, say, when we do workshops, when we ask people, okay, what do you know about, for example, we show them, say, two products, say there are two mangoes, for example. So there's mango A and mango B. So how do you make your decision? So people usually say, oh, I would like to go for something that is organic. Then we ask them a question, okay, what if the organic mango has traveled 300 kilometers to come here and versus the other one which has just come for 30 kilometers, which one would you then choose? And how do you make that calculation? So then users realize, oh, it's slightly more complicated than just, label. So how can organizations be fully transparent saying, okay, when we say recycle, what does it really mean? And what is that process that's going to happen, and what is so making it very bare and visible is very important, because I feel citizens or end users still have, although there is so much content around, they still don't have concrete pictures in their heads of what's happening to those things. So some work on that is also maybe necessary.
It's right that we actually use also blockchain as a support for our technology, because there you really have a full transparency. Anybody can anytime check how many token has been distributed for a bottle, where it has been collected. So you have really immutable data, and that is really the base of trust, of a trustful system, and transparency comes along also.
Right. So today is World Cleanup Day, and we've talked about how organizations can do stuff, right? What advice would you have for anyone attending this webinar on how they can turn their waste into value in very, very practical terms, easy shifts they can make in their day-to-day lives? Now, I know, Eric, you're going to say download Zaloop.
And compost.
But in really practical terms, what can we do to, sort of to be better with the waste problem?
Yeah, I can start.
Sure.
Of course, download Zaloop. It's probably the best way of doing it, and it's very easy and fast to do. Again, from my side, I want to underline the fact that we have, before even considering to generate value out of trash, we have to start reducing trash. It's very popular now having the yellow Friday, blue Friday, pink Friday, and people are pushed to consume, people are pushed to use. So we have to start thinking, it's this product I really need it, it's this service I really need it. It's something that can really harm people, animal, the environment. The social aspect is also important. So let's start to go down a bit to Earth. People want to reach Mars before even taking care of our planet. So that's a bit the sad part from my side. In terms of creating value, just use your creativity. Just use the uniqueness that everybody has in find solution of a product or an object that can be turned into some value. And of course, create a community around yourself. Again, Zooloop, this is another very good example of creating community around you, of people that think like you, people that can evolve with you, and giving more idea or solution to generate value out of waste. That's my personal opinion. So reduce first, and after engage people and creativity.
Yeah, just to add to that, if I can go.
Sure.
Yeah, so like Matteo mentioned, rethink your choices, absolutely reduce on what you can't, and also go local. I feel that's also becoming a big movement. Find things that are locally grown or locally available, and support businesses. And when we say download Zooloop, like absolutely do it, because I mean, there's so much innovation happening, and we really need to kind of tap into it, and as users try to engage with it, experiment and see what comes out. So yeah, absolutely find out what's happening around and go for it, I'd say.
And what we mentioned earlier, Amarpreet, is fun. I think the fun component is a very interesting element that should be driving us. It may be at first not so rewarding or fun to compost. If you grow your own food later, it's fun for everybody, for the whole household. You collect bottles or you map beans, may not look so fun, but people start to think that it's a Pokemon Go of beans, and so the fun element is really something that if you can add in your daily gesture and so on, then recycling is not is more than just impact and so on. Is also something very cool to do it.
And we also have we have Maria from the audience who's telling us we could also participate in beach cleanups. There's an organization called Azraq ME. We could, in Dubai, for everyone signing in from Dubai, where we could go for beach cleanups and do stuff like that as well.
And by the way, I see that on the chat, someone mentioning that. We are discussing with Azraq, and we're going to on the next beach cleanup, we will going to use the Zooloop app to also reward the cleanup for people participating. So as a temporary feature. And then after you can keep on the token earned during the beach cleanup amongst the others that would be earned by collecting bottles and so on. So yes, it's coming, and we are planning an event on kayaking / cleanup. So stay tuned, and you will discover that when it's organized. Yeah. Today it's a bit challenging. Cleanups are challenging because with the COVID, you can't do that everywhere. It has to be in a private area. Yeah, there's a bit of constraints, but hopefully we will gradually recover a more normal life.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else that any of the panelists want to add? No? Okay. Are there any?
Sorry, just last thing I think. Thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation. Congratulations, Eric. And sorry, I cannot pronounce your name again. Amarpreet.
Yes, you can just call me Amar also. It's fine.
Amar, okay, easier. Thank you so much. Very valuable. I'm trying to learn more and more into compostable system and solution. It's something that we can also take bilaterally. And this is the value of creating this kind of event. Thank you so much, Namrata, because together we can make a difference. We need to create a community. We need to create a group of people, a group of business, a group of governments to change some legislation and to change the mindset of people to make our planet a better and greener place. This was just to resume a bit and congratulate you for organizing this beautiful webinar.
Thank you so much, Matteo. Thanks to all of you all for coming and telling us a lot more about, all the three interesting topics. And I hope it was informative for all the people participating. If you all have questions, please feel free to either email it to us or write it to us in the chat. And we look forward, Shiftyco is going to be organizing a lot such events in the future, and we will keep you posted about such events and look forward to seeing you all attending those as well. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Matteo. Thanks, Amarpreet. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
And please, if Namrata, if somebody send you some question privately, please share to us. So we will be very happy to answer in the next days. If somebody has any question, and also our contact you can share with from my side. You can share my contact to anybody.
Absolutely, I'll do that. Thank you so much, Matteo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.